97% of men over 50 miss the moment a woman starts flirting with them, not because they're clueless or stuck in the past, but because the signals have changed dramatically. She's not going to twirl her hair and giggle like she did in her 20s. She's not going to flat out say, "I like you," or invite you out for a drink. What she'll do instead is ask a question, software casual, harmless on the surface. But that question isn't about the weather or the book in your hand. It's a quiet invitation, a subtle door opening. And if you don't recognize it for what it is, if you don't step through, that door will close just as quietly as it opened. That's the difference. You walk away thinking it was a nice exchange. She walks away thinking, "Guess he's not interested." You didn't say anything wrong. That's the kicker. You just didn't say the right thing because you didn't realize what she was really asking. This isn't about scripts or pickup lines. This is about presence, awareness, emotional fluency, the kinds of things that matter more and more as we age. This message, this video, this guide is about those moments, the quiet questions that don't sound flirtatious but absolutely are. The side glances, the offhand remarks, the curious little probes that women use when they want to test the water without diving in head first. Because after 50, the rules change, but not in the way you might think. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through 8 questions women ask when they're interested but cautious, when they're feeling something but unwilling to risk too much. You'll understand what these questions really mean, why they matter, and how to respond in a way that says, "I see you. I'm here. I'm open." Not chasing, not desperate, just steady, grounded, real. Because here's the truth. After 50, most men don't need to try harder. They just need to notice more. And when you start noticing, everything shifts. Where you once saw small talk, you'll see sincere interest. Where you assumed you were invisible, you'll feel warmth. And where you once believed attraction was off the table, you'll begin to recognize it for what it truly is: mutual, mature, and still very much alive. Let's begin with the first question. It sounds innocent enough, but make no mistake, this is one of the biggest, most meaningful tests she'll ever offer. Question number 1. How old are you, really? At first blush, it seems like a lighthearted query, playful, maybe even irrelevant. But when a woman looks you in the eye and says, "How old are you, really?" She's not playing games. She's not looking for trivia. And she's certainly not trying to guess your age like it's some kind of party trick. She already knows you're not 35. That's not the point. What she's really trying to uncover is something deeper, something more revealing. How comfortable are you in your own skin? Do you wear your age like a burden or like a badge? That's what she's paying attention to, not the number, but the energy behind it. If you squirm, deflect, or crack a self-deprecating joke about how old you feel, she might smile, she might even laugh. But the energy, it shifts. Because what she's hoping to feel in that moment isn't denial or defensiveness. It's confidence, presence, the kind of quiet self-assurance that only comes from a man who's made peace with his life story. She's not looking for youth. She's looking for vitality. The men who stand out, especially as we age, aren't the ones who chase after youth like it's slipping through their fingers. They're the ones who've embraced the years they've lived, the ones who can look a woman in the eye and say something like, "Old enough to know what matters, young enough to still enjoy the ride," or even better, with a slow grin, "You want my age or my attitude?" I remember speaking with Rick, 64, divorced, silver hair, always dressed with intention. He told me about a woman he met in a downtown jazz lounge. Classy, sharp, probably in her late 40s. They talked, laughed, connected, and then, casually but directly, she leaned in and asked, "How old are you, really?" Rick, thinking he was being clever, smirked and said, "Too old for you." She laughed, but not the way he'd hoped. He said he felt it instantly. The spark dimmed. And later, that night, it hit him. He hadn't just dodged the question. He dodged the moment. That's what most men miss. These questions aren't interviews, they're invitations. And if you answer them with self-doubt or self-deprecation, she feels that energy. Loud and clear. Underneath it all, here's what's really happening. As we age, we carry more history, more scars, more quiet fears that maybe, just maybe, we're no longer seen. But women sense that. And when she asks you how old you are, she's not measuring years. She's measuring aliveness. So the next time it happens, don't reach for the joke. Don't treat it like a test. Treat it like a door. Because if she's asking, it means she's already thinking. Maybe. And your response will either keep that door open or gently, irrevocably, close it. Question number 2. Why aren't you married? Now this one can feel jarring, even invasive. But if a woman asks you, softly and with curiosity, why aren't you married? Know this, she's not probing for gossip. She's not compiling a report. She's not dragging you back through the trenches of your romantic past. What she's actually doing is trying to understand something much more immediate. Are you emotionally available right now? Is there space in your life for someone like her? Here's where many good men stumble. Some respond by unloading their whole love history, divorce, heartbreak, missed connections. Others get defensive, tossing out bitter throwaways like, tried that once, never again. But both answers do the same thing. They close the window she just cracked open. What she's looking for isn't your resume, it's your rhythm. She wants to hear, not just in your words, but in your tone, whether you're at peace with your past or still dragging it behind you like a suitcase that's never been unpacked. So what's a better response? Something grounded, honest, but light. Try. Life kept me busy, but I've got room now for something real. Or even, I guess I just haven't met the right woman until maybe now. Let me tell you about Gerald, 67, quiet soul, works with his hands, widowed too young. He told me about a woman he met at a community garden. Tomatoes brought them together, believe it or not. They talked, connected, and then one day she looked up and asked, "So how come a man like you isn't married?" Gerald froze, gave some stiff answer about how things didn't work out, changed the subject. A week later, she stopped showing up. "I thought she was just being polite," he told me. "I didn't realize she was asking, because she was thinking about us." That's the thing. These moments don't come announced. They arrive disguised. And when a woman asks this question, it's not curiosity, it's courage. She's inching forward, hoping it's safe. If your answer feels bitter or closed, she'll retreat. But if your tone is steady, clear, a little warm, it tells her everything. So next time someone asks why you're not married, don't give her a reason to regret asking. Give her a reason to wonder what's next. Question number 3. Do you date younger women? This one trips up a lot of men. Some take it as a compliment. Others bristle, thinking it's a trap. But here's the truth. When a woman asks you, do you date younger women, she's not gathering data. She's testing something deeper, your openness, your receptivity. She's wondering, could a man like you ever see a woman like me as more than just a friend? Most of the time, she's not looking for a direct yes. What she wants is an answer that makes her feel seen, not compared, not dismissed, and certainly not judged. And definitely not like she's just another auditionee behind a line of 30-somethings on call. This is where men often go sideways. Some puff up, rattling off a list of their younger dates like trophies. Others deflect. "I'm way too old for you," they say, trying to shut it down before she even has the chance. Both responses miss the mark entirely, because what she's really asking is, do I have a chance? Want a better answer? Something like, I don't date by age, I date by connection and energy. Or, what matters to me is how a woman makes me feel, not when she was born. Let me give you a real-world example. Marcus, 59, sharp dresser, quick wit, met a woman, mid-40s, at his favorite bookstore, asked him for a memoir recommendation. They chatted, laughed, grabbed coffee. Then came the moment. She leaned back, eyes a little playful, and asked, "Do you usually date younger women?" Marcus paused, smiled. "I like women who bring good energy," he said. "Doesn't matter to me if they're younger or older. Just matters that we click." She smiled, not polite, interested, and that conversation turned into dinner. That dinner turned into something more. Because here's what presence does. It transforms questions into possibilities. And when she asks about younger women, she's not asking about age. She's asking for permission. She wants to explore, but only if you'll meet her halfway. At our age, connection isn't about smooth lines or clever games. It's about clarity, warmth, just enough spark to keep the door open. And when she asks, "Do you date younger women?" that door is already cracked, right there in front of you. The only question is, will you walk through? Question number 4. What kind of woman do you usually go for? At a glance, it might sound like small talk, innocent, generic, the kind of thing you hear when people are just passing time. But make no mistake, when a woman looks you in the eye and asks, "What kind of woman do you usually go for?" she's not being casual, she's comparing. She's wondering, measuring, trying to see if she fits into the picture you've built in your mind. Not perfectly, not exactly, but enough. What she's really asking is, do I have a chance to be the kind of woman you're drawn to? And more importantly, do you see women like me, not just as people you admire, but as people you desire? Here's where many men fall into a trap. They take the question literally, rattling off preferences like they're ordering off a menu. Athletic, adventurous, tall, brunette, someone who likes golf or hiking or jazz. But what they don't realize is this. While they're naming features, she's watching, listening, not to the surface of your answer, but to the story underneath, because she wants to know, are you stuck on a fantasy, or are you open to reality, to connection, a better approach? Speak to qualities that matter, not things she needs to look like or do, but ways she might already be. Try. I like women who are curious, thoughtful, someone who can laugh when things get messy, someone who knows how to be calm in a storm. These are qualities she can locate in herself. And if she's interested in you, and she probably is if she's asking, then she's hoping she fits the description you give. Let me tell you about Elliot, 62, retired firefighter, met a woman through a volunteer project, painting fences, planting trees, getting dirt under their nails. They got along. Effortless banter, shared jokes, comfortable silences. And one afternoon, while dipping her brush into the paint, she glanced sideways and asked, "So, what kind of woman do you usually go for?" Without overthinking, Elliot said, "I think I like someone calm. Someone whose presence makes a space feel softer." She didn't reply right away, but later that day she stayed behind, helping him clean up long after everyone else left. When he thanked her, she just smiled and said, "I was hoping I was your type." That's the power of presence, not performance. When you answer in a way that feels open, not strategic, you allow her to step into the space between you. Psychologically, this kind of question is a quiet form of self-selection. She's not just gauging your preferences. She's asking herself if she should lean in or lean out. And how you answer will give her that answer. So next time someone asks what kind of woman you usually go for, don't respond with a fantasy list from 10 years ago. Describe the kind of connection you're ready to build, because if she's asking, it's probably not for a friend. Question number 5. Are you always this charming? Now here's one that comes dressed as a joke, delivered with a smile, maybe even a playful little laugh. It sounds like a compliment, and it is, but it's also something more. When a woman says, "Are you always this charming?" she's testing something, gently, carefully. She's offering you a spark, a glimmer, and waiting to see if you'll hold it or fumble. Most men miss the moment. They think it's flattery and don't know how to hold it. So they brush it off. Say something like, only on Tuesdays, or must be your effect on me, or guess I'm just having a good day. And just like that, poof, the opening she gave you, the spark she handed over, fizzles. Because what she's really asking in that moment is, can you hold this? Can you meet the warmth I'm offering without backing away or cracking a joke? It's not about charm. It's about presence. Can you stay in the moment with her? Feel the tension without rushing to break it? So what's a better answer? Still light, still playful, but grounded. Real. Try this. Only when I'm around someone who makes me feel like myself. Or, I save it for moments that matter. Or even better, say nothing. Just hold her gaze. Let the energy stretch just a second longer than usual. Let her feel that you felt it too. Alan comes to mind, 68, gentle man, widower, loved old movies and long walks. He met a woman at a dinner party. They talked about books, favorite films, old cities. She leaned in close, gave him that look and said, "Are you always this charming? Or just tonight?" Alan didn't flinch. He smiled and said, "That depends. Are you always this curious, or am I just lucky?" She didn't look away after that. Her eyes lingered, because in that moment she knew he got it. This kind of question isn't about ego. It's about connection. She's giving you permission to flirt, gently, subtly, without stepping into anything uncomfortable. She's saying, "This feels good. Can we go just a little deeper?" And if you receive that invitation with grace, with warmth, then you open the door wider for her to walk through. From a psychological standpoint, this is how women often escalate interest, not through big declarations, but through tiny, playful openings. And your job isn't to impress her. It's simply to respond with presence, to not shy away, to show her you're still tuned in to this part of yourself, the part that can dance in the quiet space between the words. So if she ever asks if you're always this charming, take a breath, smile. Let the moment live a little longer. Let her see that, yes, you still know how to hold a spark. Question number 6. Why don't you have a girlfriend? On the surface, it sounds simple, straightforward, maybe even a little casual. But don't be fooled. This is one of the clearest signs that a woman is no longer just talking. She's wondering, testing the waters with something bold but masked as curiosity. When a woman asks, "Why don't you have a girlfriend?" what she's really saying is there room in your life, and maybe in your heart, for someone like me? Now here's where the answers really matter, because too many men respond in ways that close the door without even realizing it. They say things like, "I'm too set in my ways," or "I like my freedom," or worse, "Relationships at this age are just too much drama." And just like that, the light in her eyes dims. She hears, closed, guarded, maybe even a little bitter. But she's not asking if you're single. She's asking if you're available, emotionally, energetically, mentally. She's asking if your life still has room for surprise, for affection, for connection. And the right answer, if it's true, is one that invites curiosity, not caution. Try. "I've taken my time, but I'm still open to being surprised." Or, "I guess I've been waiting for something that feels a little unexpected." Let me tell you about William. 71, always dressed sharp, carried himself with calm confidence. He was at a gallery opening, sipping a glass of wine, when a woman struck up a conversation. They talked, laughed, found common ground in art, travel, life. And then, without breaking stride, she leaned a little closer and asked, "So, why don't you have a girlfriend?" William didn't hesitate, looked her straight in the eye and said, "Because I've spent the last few years learning how to be a better man. Now I'm ready for a better kind of love." He told me later that her eyes didn't leave his for the rest of the evening. That's the power of a grounded answer. One that doesn't apologize. One that doesn't over-explain. One that stands tall and yet leave space for hope. Because women, especially in midlife, are just as nervous about rejection as we are. Maybe more. They've been through their own heartbreaks, their own silences, and they're just as cautious about showing interest too openly. So when she asks why you're still single, she's not looking for reassurance. She's looking for a sign that you're still reachable, that the doors to your life haven't rusted shut. Let your answer be a soft yes to possibility, to curiosity, to her. Question number 7. Would you ever date someone like me? This is the moment, the closest thing to a confession you're likely to hear. It doesn't come often, and when it does, it usually arrives cloaked in humor, dressed in casual tones. But make no mistake, this one takes courage. When a woman asks, "Would you ever date someone like me?" she's not being rhetorical. She's not fishing for compliments. She's exposing herself, just a little, carefully, bravely. And what she's asking, if you really hear it, is, do I still have a chance to be wanted, to be seen, to be chosen? It's a vulnerable place to stand, which is why so many men panic. They retreat into vague responses like, maybe, or try to lighten the mood, change the subject. But in doing so, they miss the moment. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't realize the weight of what was just offered. So what should you say? Something honest, grounded, nothing fancy. Try. I'd be lucky if I could. And then, let that silence stretch. Let her feel that you meant it. There's a story that sticks with me. Charlie, 66, former military, tough exterior, few words. He met a woman through friends, walks, conversations, slow trust building. And one night, under a quiet sky, she stopped walking, looked over and softly asked, "Would you ever date someone like me?" Charlie didn't answer right away, just looked at her, then said, "I think I'd be a fool not to." She didn't say anything, just reached out, took his hand, and kept walking beside him. That's all she needed, not a performance, not a promise, just presence, just truth. Because psychologically, this is the final step before real connection. Not in a game-playing way, but in the way human hearts work. Cautious, hopeful, still afraid of being rejected. And when she asks that question, she's already decided she likes you. She just needs to know if it's safe to keep going. So don't try to say the perfect thing. Say the true thing. Let her feel seen, wanted, not for who she might become, but for who she already is. Right here, in front of you. Bonus insight. Not all questions come with words. Here's something we forget far too easily. Not every invitation arrives with a sentence. In fact, some of the most powerful signals, especially after 50, are entirely nonverbal. They don't come wrapped in clever phrasing or playful banter. They don't announce themselves. They don't need to. Because sometimes the most meaningful question a woman can ask is silent. It shows up in the way she tilts her head when you speak, the way her eyes hold yours just a beat longer than necessary, the way her laughter lingers in the air, even when what you said wasn't all that funny. These aren't coincidences. These are clues. Women, especially women who've lived some life, have developed a fluency in subtlety that most men underestimate. They've learned how to send signals without exposing themselves too much. It's not manipulation. It's wisdom, protection, grace. And if you're not paying attention, if you're still listening only for words, you'll miss them. Entire opportunities will pass you by and you'll walk away thinking the moment was nothing, while she walks away thinking, I tried, and I guess he didn't feel it. Take, for example, the physical cues. A brief touch on your forearm when she makes a point, standing just a little closer than she needs to, mirroring your body language, crossing her legs when you do, leaning in when you lean forward. These are not random acts of posture. They are small acts of courage, signals that she is not just physically present but emotionally engaged, signals that she is aware of you, and more than that, she wants you to be aware of her. There's a story I'll never forget. Daniel, 70, widowed, soft-spoken, and until recently, convinced that his dating life was behind him. He joined a local film club, mostly for something to do on Thursday nights. There, he met a woman, smart, warm, a little mischievous in her humor. Over a few group outings, she began sitting closer to him, asking smaller, more personal questions, laughing a little too easily at his dry jokes. And then one evening, as they shared a laugh over something trivial, she reached out and touched his hand, just briefly. He told me he didn't think much of it at the time. But when she stopped doing those little things, no more sitting beside him, no more lingering glances, he felt the absence. It got so quiet, he said. I didn't even know I'd been enjoying the warmth until it disappeared. Then he paused. She was waiting for me to notice, and I didn't. Not until it was too late. That's how it happens. That's how these moments slip through the cracks, because we're trained to listen with our ears, but not always with our intuition. And yet, psychologically speaking, humans are wired to respond to body language, eye contact, physical proximity, mirroring. These speak to our primal understanding of interest, of trust, of connection. But after years of solitude, heartbreak, or just the noise of life, many men have lost touch with that instinct. They second-guess what they see. They tell themselves, she's just being nice, or she's like this with everyone. And in doing so, they talk themselves out of feeling the moment. But what if she's not just being nice? What if the way her fingers brushed yours wasn't incidental? What if her glance wasn't just polite? What if it was hopeful? What if the way she tilted her head and smiled when you spoke was her way of saying, I see you. I still feel drawn to someone, maybe to you. At this stage of life, when the stakes feel lower but the meaning feels deeper, attraction isn't about bravado, it's about presence. And presence means noticing. The way her tone softens when she says your name, the way she stays a beat too long after the conversation should have ended, the way she pauses in the middle of a sentence and smiles like she's wondering what might come next. So here's your quiet assignment, your practice for the next encounter. The next time you find yourself talking to a woman, even casually, slow down. Stop planning your next sentence. Stop trying to be clever. Look at her. Look at her eyes, her posture, the rhythm of her breath. Listen for what she's not saying. Notice what her presence is already telling you. And when the moment opens, because it will, don't rush it. Don't second guess it. Stay there, in the quiet, in the spark, in the warmth. Because sometimes the most beautiful invitation doesn't come with a question. It comes in silence. Final reflection. Respond like the man you are. Now that you've walked through these questions, these moments of subtle invitation, I want to leave you with something deeper than tactics. I want to leave you with a reminder of who you are. Because here's what becomes clear as we grow older. The signs of interest become quieter, but the need to be seen becomes louder. The questions aren't shouted. The interest isn't loud, but it's real, and it's waiting for the kind of man who doesn't need to chase, but knows how to recognize the moment when it arrives. When a woman leans in and says, "Are you always this charming?" she's not just playing, she's offering you a thread. When she jokes, "Would you ever date someone like me?" she's not fishing, she's reaching. And what she's going to remember isn't the exact words you say. It's how you carried yourself in that moment, whether you tensed up or relaxed, whether you tried to impress her or just told the truth, whether you stood in your own presence or shrank from it. Because real presence doesn't need polish. It doesn't need a script. The men women remember, the ones who linger in their memory, aren't always the ones who said the clever thing. They're the ones who made her feel like she didn't have to perform, who didn't look past her, who stayed in the moment and let it breathe, who let a little silence hang in the air and didn't rush to fill it with nervous chatter. So let me say this clearly. At your age, you don't need to become someone else. You don't need to put on an act. You've lived through enough, seen enough, loved enough, and lost enough to know what matters. What matters now is being awake to the moments when someone else sees that in you and being ready to meet her halfway, not with flash, but with presence, not with a pitch, but with steadiness. Let your posture say, "I'm here." Let your voice be calm and unhurried. Let your smile say, "I'm not trying to be anyone else." Let your presence speak louder than your past. Because when a woman senses that groundedness in you, that steadiness, that quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove anything, she softens too. She lets go of her armor. She stops performing. She lets herself be real. And now, you're no longer just making conversation. You're building connection. That's what changes everything. So as we wrap this up, take a gentle look back at your past few conversations. Think of the women you've talked with recently. Are there moments that you now realize carried more weight than you gave them credit for? A question you brushed off too quickly? A look you misread? A moment that might have been more than it seemed? If so, don't punish yourself for missing it. We all do. The world has trained us to overlook quiet invitations. But now, you see them, or you will. And when you do, when that next question lands softly in your lap, or when that smile lingers just a second longer, you'll know what it is. You'll feel it. And you won't need to perform. You won't need to rush. You won't need to prove anything. You'll simply respond as the man you already are, the one who listens, the one who leads with warmth, the one who isn't afraid to say, "I'd be lucky if I could," and mean it. Because that's all she's waiting for. Not a line, not a pitch, but a man who's still paying attention. A man who can see the spark. And more importantly, who knows how to keep it lit. And if this message spoke to you, if it stirred something or reminded you of who you've always been, take a moment to let it land, to feel the invitation it's offering you, right here, right now. And if you want more of this, more real talk, more grounded guidance, more reminders of how connection still lives and breathes at every stage of life, then take a second to like, subscribe, and tap the bell. Because your presence here supports more than just a channel. It supports a conversation, one that's overdue, one that's alive, one that still matters. You're not done living. You're not done connecting. And you're certainly not done being seen. Let the world see you. Let her see you. And when she does, be ready to say yes.